Hi, this is John Kranz with Consim Press, and this will be our first in a multi-part segment focusing on encounters against escorted ships. We're actually going to do a convoy action and see how that plays out. But again, this will be a multi-part series, and we're going to start by just showing you how the encounter would shape up. So let's start with our Type 7C U-boat that we have here. You'll see that I'm actually out on patrol already in the Atlantic. We're going to consider it October of 1940, which would be our first available start date for our first patrol assignment. And I've actually expended some torpedoes already. I had an encounter earlier against an unescorted large freighter, and I fired off several forward torpedo tubes, actually 3 of them. And then I used 2 of my deck ammo rounds earlier, so I've basically adjusted already my display mat. I've done a reload of my forward torpedo tubes, and my ammo markers are down by 2, so I have 8 left. And what we're going to do now is we're actually going to pretend we just finished an encounter and sunk a large freighter that was by itself, and we're now going to go to our next travel box in the Atlantic. What we would do next is we would go resolve the encounter on the encounter chart E1. So we'd roll 2d6 under the Atlantic chart, and I rolled a 8. Now 8 is no result, but we're going to assume, again, for purposes of this tutorial, we're going to assume that I had rolled a convoy result. So let's see what happens with the convoy result. Well, first let's find out what the time of day is for this encounter. So we have day or night, so I'm going to roll a 1d6 to see what time of day it is. It is nighttime, so that's actually good news. That's what I was hoping for. If I hadn't rolled night and it was day, I could have taken a chance to switch from day to night, but notice there's a risk I would lose my target. So let's assume that I had rolled day. What you would need to then determine right away is do you want to try to switch to night and keep contact with the convoy. So you would roll a single d6 again, and in this case I rolled a 1, and my switch to night would have been successful. If I had failed this die roll to switch to night, I would have lost the target, the encounter would have been considered over, and we would have to move our U-boat marker to the next travel box on the display mat. But so far so good. We know we now have a night engagement against a convoy, which means we're going to be in basically the perspective we're coming in, or the aspect we're coming in to engage this convoy. It's going to make 4 targets available to us, which we now have to roll for. So we're going to determine the ship sizes of these 4 targets now. So let's go ahead and do that. And you would roll 1d6 per ship. So I'm going to roll 4 dice total. So let's do that. I rolled a 1 and a 2. So I rolled a small freighter twice. So I know 2 of the 4 ships are small freighters. Let's roll for the other 2 ships. Another small freighter, and I rolled a 4 for a large freighter. So what we have is the end result is I'm approaching a convoy, and part of the convoy that I'm engaging has 3 small freighters, and also there is 1 large freighter as well. So let's go ahead and actually start setting this up on the U-boat display mat just to sort of get an idea of what's going to be happening here. So that's what I'm going to do now. Is I'm going to go ahead and switch over here to the U-boat combat mat. Let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. And first of all, we're not using any optional variable escort quality rules, so we know that with a convoy, it's automatically under escort, so I'm bringing down my generic escort marker. I also know that there is 3 small freighters that are part of this convoy. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to grab 3 of the freighters now. And I've gone ahead and done that. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to scoot these over, because I know the meatiest target's going to be the large freighter. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab the 1 large freighter. And let me just separate these out so we don't have too many. There we go. So we have a large freighter and we have 3 small freighters. So we have a total of 4 ships that we're engaging. What we have to do now is, what we can do now is we know it's nighttime already. So it's a nighttime engagement. I haven't determined the range yet. And it's an escort, obviously, because it's under convoy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to check the actual makeup of the 4 ships, starting with the 3 small freighters. So I'm going to switch on over now and switch to my freighter roster. So let me go ahead and pull that up. So we have 3 small freighters we have to roll for. And I haven't actually written anything down yet on my U-boat, on my U-boat patrol log sheet, because what I'm going to probably end up doing here, and I covered this in a previous video tutorial, I might just make a notation on a piece of scrap paper what I'm going to be rolling right now. So let me go ahead and roll. Again, we're going to roll basically 2d10, a d10 plus a d10. The black d10 will be for the tens place. And let's see what the first result is for this. So we have 78. So what I'm going to do is 78. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to write down, I could do it two ways. I could write down a T1 -78. That stands for the T1 table. I rolled a 78. Or I could write a small letter S and the number 78, which represents a small freighter on the, and a 78 was rolled. And again, I'm not using the optional target roster here, so I don't have to worry about specifying the table number. Since I'm just using the standard target roster, I could just go with a small letter S number 78, just to remind myself that we have basically just rolled and encountered at 4,400 tons of Frederica Lensen. So that's our first target, small freighter. Let's do our next small freighter. It's an 8080. 80 is Navarino, 4,800. That's not a bad target. So again, I rolled a S80. A small freighter 80 was the result. I'm just writing that down on a piece of scrap paper. And let's roll one time for our last small freighter, which was a 14. 14 is actually right at 5,000 tons. S14, I'm writing down S14. And that represents the Arlington Court. So we have our three values from the small freighter. Let's go ahead and now resolve for the large freighter. So we're now going to the large freighter table, and we roll once for the one large freighter we have. And I rolled a 42. So I'm going to write down a capital L followed by the number 42. L42 is at 10,000, weighing in at 10,600 tons, is the Zealandic large freighter. All right, so there we go. So we have our four targets. What I could decide to do now is I can decide how many of these four freighters I'm going to be planning to target as part of this convoy. And I'm going to tell you right now that I'm going to be targeting the large freighter for sure, which was, I rolled L42, which was the Zealandic at 10,600 tons. So I would write down on the roster sheet, I would write down the L42 perhaps. I would write down 10,600 for the total tons, and above that I could write Zealandic to specify the name of the large freighter that I'm going to be trying, that I will actually be targeting. Now, as far as the small freighters go, I have, I'm just going to target one of them, and I have three choices. I rolled a 78, which was 4,400 tons. I rolled an 80, which was 4,800 tons, and I rolled a 14, which was 5,000 tons, which was the Arlington Court. So I'm going to target the Arlington Court, which was again rolling a 14. So those are the, so I would write down on the roster sheet not only the large freighter, but also S14, or write down 5,000 tons and the name Arlington Court. So those are the two I'm going to target. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and show this on the combat mat. So what we're going to do is I'm only going to be targeting two of these four freighters. And so the large freighter, which is going to be over 10,000 tons. It was just over 10,000 tons. So that has a value of 4 to sink. So I've put it here. Let me make this a little smaller so we can see it. So it was over 10,000 tons. So that goes in the 4 space. If it was under 10,000 tons, it would start in the 3 damage spot, meaning it could absorb 3 hits before it would sink. But since it's 10,000 tons or more, the large freighter, it will start in the 4 space. And the small freighter came in right at 5,000 tons, and basically all small freighters automatically have a 2 hits they can absorb. I've just zoomed in here so you can see the hit number. Basically tells you a small freighter can take up to 2 hits of damage. Now, I'm not going to be targeting at all these other 2 small freighters. I could just leave them here if I wanted to, but that might be confusing to think, oh, I must have sunk these already. That's not the case at all. So I'll just go ahead and I'll just place these, even though I'm not going after them. I'll place these 2 in where they would normally be placed, but actually it's targets 1 and targets 2. These are the 2 swim lanes that I'm going to basically be going after. Now, just a note about the rules. We're going to do something here. As far as the engagement, it's not 1941 yet, so I know that means I can do a night surface attack. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So if you look here at rules case 9.5, night surface attack, that gives me a benefit for my torpedo fire. And I will not suffer a negative modifier because it is not 1941 yet, which you will see on the charts and tables once we get there. So I am going to be at the surface against this convoy of escorted ships. But please note, even though I am at the surface, I cannot use my deck guns in this attack. You cannot use deck guns against escorted ships, and that is actually located under case 9.3 or 9.31. You can only engage deck guns against unescorted ships. So even though I'm at the surface, I do not get to use I am not using my deck guns because there are escorts in the area. So we're strictly doing torpedo fire under a night surface attack. So let's go ahead and get ready to do that. So we're going to go back to our U-boat here, and I'm going to be firing from the forward torpedo tubes. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be firing a salvo of 3 steam torpedoes at the large freighter, target 1, and my last remaining forward torpedo is firing at the small freighter, or target 2. So let's take a look at what this now looks like as I set up the U-boat display mat here. So we have a large freighter, we have 3 steam torpedoes that I'm going to be letting loose as a torpedo salvo targeting the large freighter, and we have our last steam torpedo is firing at one of the small freighters. It's the largest small freighter actually at 5,000 tons. This will be how we will engage these ships. Now I have to decide obviously what range we're coming in at. I'm going to pick medium range. The reason I'm going to pick medium range is if I had picked close range, although that gives me a stronger likelihood that my torpedoes can strike successfully and hit the target, my concern is I would have to do an escort detection check if I go short range, or close range rather. And I don't want to be at close range at this point for escorted targets because I'm afraid I run the risk of being detected by the escorts, which means I'll never get a chance to fire those torpedoes. I'm just going to be basically automatically finding myself in what I would basically liken to a escort detection depth charge, a loop or cycle, where I'm just trying to get out of this detection mode and withstanding depth charge attacks. I would never get a chance to basically fire those torpedoes, and I want to have a chance to fire my torpedoes. So I'm going to come in at a aspect of medium range, which means since I've picked medium range, I can go ahead. I've selected here a surface attack at night, which is step 5 in this outline to our right. I've assigned the torpedoes already. You'll notice here I was actually just a little bit out of step. You know, this outline is meant to guide you, and I've actually probably gone in a different order, but basically it still works together. It still works and gels together fine. It doesn't matter that I've already assigned my torpedoes before that step, but we have provided this step-by-step outline for you to help you in combat against escorted ships, which this convoy encounter is. So basically, if we would focus in on it just a little bit here, just to tell you what's happened, is we rolled for day or night. We already did. I rolled night right away. I didn't have to change it to switch from day to night. We just determined all the ships that we were going to encounter, selected the range. I've done that. I selected night surface attack, step 5. We've assigned the torpedoes. We're now at step 7. I get to fire the torpedoes before I have to check for escort detection because I'm at medium range. So that, in a nutshell, is basically how we're set up now to engage this convoy target. And what I'm going to do right now is we're going to end part 1 of this segment, and part 2 will pick up where we resolve the first torpedo fire salvo against this convoy. So stay tuned to part 2.